Revealed. How a touching 50K claim from my aunt led to an unexpected, life-changing judgment. Emily had always been the strong one. At 28, she was juggling 3 jobs. A waitress at the local diner, a caregiver for her aging mother, and the unofficial guardian for her 2 younger siblings, Jake and Sophie. Their small Midwestern town, with its charming shops and the scent of baked goods wafting through the air, felt like a comforting embrace. But beneath that warmth, the weight of bills and responsibilities pressed down hard. When news of the 50K life insurance claim from her late Aunt Claire hit her, it felt like the world had shifted. At first, there was joy out of the blue, money that could help pay for college, settle debts, and finally allow her to breathe a little easier. But soon, that joy morphed into confusion and chaos as family secrets began to unravel around her. Claire had always been a figure of inspiration, a rock in Emily's life, yet her death ignited a storm of arguments and accusations amidst the family. Whispers of a past marred by uncertainties and estranged relations started to seep into their already strained dynamic, particularly drawing her estranged brother, Mark, back into the scene. Mark had always been the black sheep, a veteran carrying the heavy burdens of war. He struggled under their mother's unyielding expectations. Yet, when he heard about the claim, the tension snapped tight. Old grievances swirled like falling leaves on a windswept street, and Emily felt crushed between her loyalty to her family and the undeniable rift that had formed. One snowy evening, as the flakes danced outside the diner's frosted windows, tragedy struck. A call from Jake sent her heart racing. Sophie had slipped and hit her head on the ice while playing in the yard. The snow felt heavy, cold against her cheeks as she raced to the hospital, her breath short as she clawed past her fears. There was a brief moment of stillness as the world slowed, and for the first time, she grasped how life could shift in an instant. As they all huddled in the sterile waiting room, the atmosphere shifted from desperation to contemplation. Now, sitting side by side with Mark, the 2 siblings who had taken opposite paths felt their guarded walls melt. In that quiet moment, eyes glued to the flickering lights overhead, they began to sift through their past, unearthing truths neither dared to speak of before. With every word they exchanged, they began to realize that their family's love was entangled with pain, regret, and resilience. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as they began to forge a fragile bond, a key piece of evidence came to light regarding the insurance claim. A letter from Aunt Claire that hinted at more than just money. It spoke of family, hurt, and choices made long ago, revealing a conspiracy that wove through their lives, deeper than they'd ever imagined. Emily's heart raced. Would it tear them apart even further? In that moment, she felt the heavy toll of potential loss, the stakes of the game they found themselves in. The air became thick with questions swirling around. What did it all mean for their identities? Would they rise above their inherited scars? Or would they be consumed by the shadows of their family's past? Emily's world spun on a tightrope, straddling love and betrayal, family and fear. Would they discover the truth together? Or would it send them crashing down? The waiting room was alive with an uneasy energy, the kind that wrapped around you like a cold shroud. Emily sensed the weight pressing down on her as she exchanged glances with Mark, both equally weary yet strangely united in that moment of uncertainty. The letter, now crumpled between her fingers, felt like a ticking time bomb. Could they unravel the truth without tearing themselves apart? Mark swiped his hand through his hair, frustration evident in the furrow etched deep across his brow. What do you think she meant by choices made long ago? He asked quietly, the tension in his voice almost palpable. Emily's mind raced, recalling every fragment of childhood stories her aunt had shared. Claire had always talked about family loyalty, but there were silences, 2 gaps in the narrative that now loomed larger than ever. I don't know. Emily's heart ached as she glanced toward the hospital room where Sophie rested, oblivious to the storm brewing outside. Just a few hours ago, her little sister had been laughing, creating snow angels. It felt like the world was holding its breath, suspended in a moment of unfathomable chaos. Mark leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. We need to figure this out. I don't want it to be just about money for us. He swallowed hard, vulnerability cracking through his bravado. Emily felt her resolve strengthen. Perhaps this was the moment they had needed all along, a chance to bridge the chasm of silence that had loomed between them since he left all those years ago. Yeah, but what if it changes everything? She replied, her own fear spilling over. What if the truths behind their familial ties were too raw, too painful? Yet the longing to know tugged at her, mingling with an overwhelming need to protect those she loved. Just then, the hospital doors swung open, and a doctor stepped out, looking fatigued but kind. It was time to find out how Sophie was doing. They both stood, a united front against the flood of uncertainty. As the doctor began to discuss Sophie's condition, Emily felt a sudden rush of warmth. They were in this together, two siblings who had danced around each other for far too long. Now standing side by side in a moment that felt almost sacred. Your sister is stable. She's going to be just fine, the doctor said, infusing the air with a palpable relief. Tears sprang to Emily's eyes. The burden of fear relinquished its grip. Mark's hand brushed against hers, a connection so simple yet so profound. Their bond was beginning to mend, threads weaving through shared fear and hope that relief washed over them. Emily quickly pocketed the letter, not yet ready to share its haunting revelations. But the question loomed, haunting and just out of reach, waiting for them to feast on the truths hidden within. Outside in the snow, the world continued to move, but her family felt like a ship lost at sea. Once they stepped outside, the cold air slapped against her cheek, invigorating and chilling. The expanse of whiteness was almost blinding, yet within its beauty lay shadows waiting to be unveiled. Emily, can we talk about the letter later? Mark broke through her thoughts. His voice carried a hint of urgency, perhaps reflecting the tumultuous storm brewing inside him. Yeah, of course. The weight of their circumstances settled over them again. Yet as they walked through the snow, the feelings of hope blended uneasily with uncertainty. They had made a promise to each other. But would the secrets of their past be too much to bear? Just then, Emily spotted a figure off in the distance, a familiar silhouette she hadn't seen in years. A ghost from the shadows of their family history. Her heart raced as dread crept in, intertwining with anticipation. What if this was the key to unraveling everything? The figure moved closer, merging with the falling snow like a specter emerging from a long-told tale. Emily's heart thudded in her chest. It was their estranged uncle, the man whose absence had colored so many of their childhood stories. She barely recognized him. The years had hollowed his cheeks and turned his hair gray, but those piercing blue eyes were unmistakable. Emily? Mark? His voice cracked like ice underfoot, blending confusion with a tremor of hope. Uncle Tom? Mark's voice carried disbelief, but it quickly turned to caution. They had not heard from him in years, not since the fallout that shattered their family's ties. Tom took a tentative step forward, his hands held out like a peace offering. I saw you at the hospital and wanted to. He trailed off, as if the gravity of the moment weighed heavily on his tongue. The air grew thick with unspoken questions. Mark remained stiff beside her, the warmth they had begun to share now retreating into the shadows of this unexpected encounter. Emily's instincts flared. Part of her wanted to turn and run, to escape the memories that threatened to flood back, but the other part was curious, yearning for answers. Why are you here? Emily managed, her voice steadier than her racing heart. I came for Sophie, he replied, a mixture of urgency and regret flashing across his face. I wanted to know, to make sure she was okay. How do you even know what is happening? Mark spat, a defensive edge creeping into his tone. It was clear he wasn't ready to forgive or forget. I've kept tabs, Tom confessed, his eyes darting between them. Claire told me about the letter. I didn't know how to reach out, but when I heard about Sophie, his voice trailed off again, overwhelmed by his own emotions. That letter, Emily whispered as it dawned on her. Could Sophie's condition somehow connect to their uncle? Had he been part of the choices her aunt hinted at? She felt a wave of confusion washing over her, pulling her deeper into the swirling complexity of their family's secrets. We don't need your help, Mark interjected, his annoyance growing. But Emily felt the tension within her shift. This moment could be pivotal. Wait, she said, halting her brother before he could brush their uncle off again. What did Claire say? What did she really mean? Tom's gaze softened, a desperation lurking beneath his stoic facade. There's more to our family than anyone ever knew. Choices that changed everything. I've regretted mine every single day. If only. His voice cracked as he searched their eyes for understanding. If only there was time to make things right. With every word he spoke, Emily felt the crumpled letter in her pocket pulse like a living thing. Secrets were just waiting to spill out, and the fragile thread that tied her to both Tom and Mark felt like it was under tension, ready to snap or finally mend as the wind whipped around them. She made a decision. Let us go somewhere we can talk, she said, her heart pounding. We need to know. We can't bury this anymore. Mark looked at her, a mix of disbelief and reluctant acceptance in his eyes. It was time to confront their past, no matter how painful. Tom nodded, relief mingling with fear as they started toward a nearby cafe, their footsteps crunching rhythmically in the snow. But what if the truths they uncovered revealed more than just family secrets? What if they changed everything they thought they knew about each other? With every step, a sense of impending revelation loomed ahead, and Emily couldn't shake the feeling that once they began this journey, there would be no turning back. Would they emerge stronger, or would the weight of their family's history be too much to bear? The cafe was a cozy refuge from the biting cold, its warmth wrapping around them like an embrace just as the thick aroma of freshly brewed coffee hit their senses. Emily took a deep breath, feeling the familiarity of this place stirring memories of weekends spent with Mark and Sophie, laughing over endless cups while their parents would chat nearby. Tom chose a corner table, a shadow of regret darkening his features as he settled into the chair. Mark remained rigid, his arms crossed tightly over his chest, while Emily sat down, fidgeting with the crumpled letter in her pocket. The clatter of plates and low murmurs of customers surrounded them, yet it felt like an isolated world, a stage for their family's secrets to unfold. How do we even start? Mark asked, his voice barely above a whisper as he glanced at their uncle with a mix of suspicion and disdain. Tom sighed, allowing the moment to hang heavily in the air before he spoke. You deserve the truth. His hands fidgeted on the table, fingers tapping nervously. Claire, she had her reasons for keeping things quiet, but the past has a way of creeping back, and I can't let you suffer because of it. Emily's pulse quickened. What are you saying? I took a different path, Tom began, his voice now thick with emotion. One that led to choices I've regretted since. But I am here now to help? Mark interrupted, anger sparking in his eyes. You think it's that simple? You left us when we needed you most. How can we trust you? Because I've lived with that choice, Tom replied, his voice rising with intensity. Every day without you I felt it. Your mother, she was my sister. I should have been there. I know nothing can change the past, but I know things about Sophie that could change her future. What do you mean? Emily leaned in, curiosity overshadowing her fear. Tom looked around as if afraid someone might overhear them. There's a history of illness in our family. I should have warned Claire. I should have been around. He swallowed hard, and Emily noticed tears pooling in his eyes. Sophie has a chance, but she needs to see the right specialists. Early intervention can make all the difference. Mark's expression shifted ever so slightly, uncertainty beginning to gnaw at his defenses. Emily felt her heart race. Could this be the breakthrough they all needed? What do you know about her condition? She asked, the urgency in her voice rising. That letter, it wasn't just about inheritance, Tom whispered, his voice trembling. It was a warning. Claire knew something the rest of us didn't. She was trying to protect all of you, but she was scared. I have the paperwork that connects it all, evidence of genetic risks that could help Sophie. Emily's breath caught in her throat as a sense of urgency washed over her. So much was at stake. Can we see it? Tom nodded slowly, his gaze earnest and searching. Yes, but you need to understand it's not easy. This could bring up painful memories. Mark's arms unfolded slightly, allowing the flicker of interest to show through. What kind of memories? The room seemed to close in on them as Tom prepared to untangle the web of their family's past. It all ties back to choices that changed lives. Our lives, especially just then. The bell above the door jingled, slicing through the growing tension. A familiar face appeared, their mother, Claire. She looked shocked to see them. And as her eyes landed on Tom, a rush of unspoken history flickered between them. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice a mixture of disbelief and apprehension. Emily felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Would the truths be too much for any of them to handle? What new revelations would Claire bring? And would it tear them further apart or finally bring them together? The cafe suddenly felt like the pivotal point of their lives. A place where shadows could either dissipate or deepen into something darker. Claire stood frozen in the doorway, her eyes darting between Tom and her children. For a moment, the bustling cafe faded into silence, every face suddenly focused on this familial confrontation. Mark shifted uncomfortably, the tension in his posture tightening once again as he whispered, "Mom?" Emily's heart thudded loudly. She hadn't seen her mother's expression shift like that in years, caught between old wounds and the promise of something new. "Tom, what are you doing here?" Claire repeated, her voice shaking slightly. Tom straightened in his chair, but all the confidence he had moments before seemed to waver. "I came to talk, Claire. About the past. About Sophie." Claire stepped into the cafe, the door swinging shut behind her with a soft thud. "You shouldn't be here," she accused, and Emily felt the heaviness in Claire's words. "Not after everything." "Maybe we need to talk about everything," Tom insisted, desperation creeping into his tone. "The kids deserve to know." Mark's fists balled up tight in his lap. "What do we deserve to know, exactly?" he demanded, the challenge in his voice a thin veneer over the worry that had crept into his eyes. But Claire held up a hand, a sign to pause. "Let us not do this now. Not in front of everyone." She glanced around as if expecting scrutiny from the other customers, but their table was a hurricane amidst the calm of chatter. "No," he said, with a determination that shocked even him. "What's in that letter is important. Claire, you can't keep burying it." The brief silence that followed was suffocating. Emily felt a knot of fear and excitement in her stomach. What if Tom was right? What if this conversation opened doors to solutions they desperately needed? "Listen," Tom began again, softer this time. "Sophie, stop," Claire interrupted, her eyes pleading. "Just stop." Emily felt torn. Part of her wanted to recoil from this confrontation, wanting the cozy cafe back just as it had been. But she couldn't let go of the urgency. "Mom, what does he mean? What does the letter say?" Claire buried her face in her hands momentarily, then lifted her head with a shuddering breath. It's complicated." "What can be so complicated that you can't even tell us?" Mark pressed, pushing closer to the edge of his seat. The weight of Claire's hesitation hung over the table, heavy enough to choke the unspoken truths. It was clear to Emily now that this wasn't just about a letter, it was about secrets, regrets, and familial love tangled in ways they couldn't yet see. "I never meant for you to find out this way," Claire finally said, and the anguish was evident in her eyes. "Especially not from him." Tom's expression hardened, but he didn't argue. Instead, he lowered his voice. "You need to tell them, Claire. Something might be wrong with Sophie, and they need to be prepared." "Prepared for what?" Mark's voice trembled on the brink of fear. The little boy inside him was begging for answers rather than the ominous fog surrounding them. "That we could have prevented this silence," Claire murmured. Tears threatened to spill as she glanced at Tom, then back at her children. "I was protecting you. I was protecting all of us." "By lying?" Mark shot back, his voice cracking. The crack in the dam was visible. Emily could see Claire wavering, the facade of calm crumbling piece by piece. "Please, let us step outside, there's so much to discuss." "No. Not outside where you can run away from the truth again," Tom said firmly, his voice breaking just enough to let them all in on his vulnerability. "The truth is here, and it's time to face it." The cafe around them faded, leaving only the four of them in their unspoken past. Hadn't they already lost enough? Emily's heart raced once more, a wild beating echoing her thoughts. What revelations lay ahead? And could this be the beginning of everything shifting into place, or the moment everything unraveled? Just when it felt like someone might finally speak the words that could bridge the gaps, the door swung open again, this time blustering in a gust of cold wind. Another figure stepped inside, bringing with them an aura of inevitability that made everyone turn. The unmistakable low hum of anxiety filled the air. Who was this new arrival? What would they bring to the rapidly unfolding story? The door creaked open, and a figure stepped in, shaking off the cold air like a dog shedding water. It was a woman in her mid-30s, her dark hair pulled back into a messy bun, strands falling haphazardly across her face. She glanced around, her gaze landing on Tom first, lingering there for a beat too long. "Is everything okay?" she asked, her brow furrowed as she rushed forward, clutching her worn-out brown handbag. The tension at the table thickened noticeably. "Tessa," Tom called softly, his voice almost a whisper, as if acknowledging a ghost rather than a person. The room swam with murmurs, eyes darting between the new woman and Claire, each speculating on the unspoken connection. "Why are you here?" Claire's voice sliced through the air, sharp and edged with a mix of fear and anger. "I got your message. I came as soon as I could," Tessa replied, her eyes flickering between Tom and Claire, a silent tug-of-war of emotions in her expression. "What's going on? Mom, who is she?" Mark broke in. Confusion etched across his young face. "She's important," Claire said, the words spilling out as if they were long buried and now struggling for release. "Important?" Tom's voice grew stronger, anchoring everyone's attention. "She's more than that, Claire. She's the key." Emily felt a jolt at that word key. Could this woman hold answers to the very questions that had been gnawing at her? Questions about Sophie, about their family, about everything that had fallen apart over the years. Tessa stepped closer, reading the air in the cafe, the palpable fear wrapped around the table like an invisible weight. "I know we're all feeling anxious, but I came here to support you, Claire. I didn't want to get involved like this, but it sounds serious. You need to tell everyone the truth." The unmistakable spark of defiance flashed in Claire's eyes as she shook her head. This isn't the time, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. "What if we're running out of time?" Tessa pressed, her tone urgent now. "What if Sophie's situation is as grave as we fear?" Mark's breath hitched, and Emily's heart sank at the thought. Whispers of disagreement filled the air, a mix of concern, anger, and confusion renewed the energy in the room. Claire's hands clenched into fists atop the table, nails digging into her palms. "I tried to protect you. All of you, so you chose silence?" Mark countered, his youthful voice cracking under the pressure of the moment. "You chose to hide things instead of letting us in? This isn't just about me. It was about Sophie." Claire snapped back, frustration mingling with helplessness. At that moment, Tessa moved closer to Claire, her eyes softening. "Claire, you can't shoulder this alone anymore. For Sophie's sake, we must all face what is happening together." Emily felt a flicker of hope igniting deep within her. Maybe this was the turning point. Maybe Tessa had come just in time to pull them back from the edge of this cascading collapse. But Claire hesitated, her face torn between dread and determination. "I don't think I can." "Then let me help you," Tessa said, stepping forward, her voice calm yet full of encouragement. "You don't have to carry this burden by yourself." The cafe buzzed around them, but in that small world at their table, it was only the four of them and the secrets that had held them captive for far too long. A flicker of understanding passed between Claire and Tessa. Did Claire finally realize that keeping things locked away had only served to widen the chasm between them? What truths could be unveiled that might bring them back together? Claire took a deep breath, and Emily felt the air shift, thick with possibilities. Just then Tessa reached into her bag, pulling out a stack of papers, and Emily could almost see the storm sweeping in behind it. Would they help or hurt even more? "Are you ready to face this?" Tessa asked, eyes locked on Claire. Though they awaited reassurance, Claire's face remained unreadable. Emily's heart raced with anticipation. Whatever was hidden in the forms was about to change everything. Would they finally discover the truth? Or would the floodgates unleash an even greater turmoil? As Claire opened her mouth to speak, the air thickened with expectation, each breath feeling like it could shift the world beneath their feet. What revelations lay ahead just beyond this threshold? Claire glanced at Tessa, the weight of the past pulling her down just as the promise of the future loomed before her. She searched for the right words but found them tangled in the chaos of her emotions. Fear and longing clashed within her chest like two waves crashing against a fragile shore. "Claire," Tessa urged gently, breaking the silence that stretched long and thin across the table. We need to talk about what's on those papers. Her voice was steady, yet there was a note of compassion that seeped through, reaching for Claire like a lifeline. Mark shifted in his seat, eyes wide, caught between confusion and anxiety. What's going on with Sophie? Is she in trouble? His voice trembled, a reflection of the uncertainty swirling in the room. With a deep inhale, Claire finally broke her silence. It's about the money. The claim. There was an electric pulse in the air, and Emily could practically feel the walls of the cafe bending inward to listen. The entire world seemed to hang in the balance, aware that what was unfolding here was more than just words. It was the potential for healing, understanding, and perhaps a chance at redemption. What claim? Mark pressed, his youthful face etched with worry. Tessa looked at Claire, her eyes silently asking if she was ready. All of it seemed ready to burst forth, the secrets and familial ties that had been hidden for so long. The claim from your aunt. The one you didn't tell anyone about, she said softly. Claire, it's time we share it all. Claire's heart raced, the memories flooding back, the arguments over money, the unspoken rift that had grown over years of silence. The pile of papers on the table could unleash a wave of upheaval, but deep down, buried amidst the fear, was also hope. I didn't want to burden anyone, Claire confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. The situation with Sophie. I thought keeping it from all of you would protect us. But keeping it from us has only hurt, Tessa interjected softly, her gaze never leaving Claire's. Think of what Sophie needs. She deserves to know the truth. Looking into Tessa's eyes, Claire felt a flicker of something trust. If Tessa believed in this shared struggle, maybe they could all find the strength to confront what lay ahead. Taking another deep breath, Claire plowed on. Aunt Miriam left behind a claim for $50,000 for Sophie's care. I didn't want to stir up old wounds, given how things ended between us. Silence hung momentarily, but this time it was different. There was a collective realization. Emily watched Mark's reaction, confusion flaring into understanding. Is that why my sister hasn't been getting the help she needs? Mark asked, almost pleading. Claire's throat tightened. Yes. I thought I could manage it alone, but I was wrong. I don't want the money. I just want Sophie healthy, Mark said, determination creeping into his voice. Claire nodded, feeling the honesty shatter the frequency of doubt that had filled her. Tessa smiled gently, the warmth of support swirling around them. Then let us do this together, Tessa declared, fundamentally shifting the energy in the room. Let us fight for what's right, together. The moment felt fragile yet powerful, like a small flame igniting against the night. They had stumbled upon an unexpected truth, a truth that bound them tighter, urging them to step forward despite the shadows that lingered. As Claire picked up the papers, her heart thundered loudly, pounding against time. What if the truth isn't as simple as we hope? She breathed, fear creeping back in. I guess we'll find out, Tessa replied, a challenge nestled in her tone. The air felt heavy again, loaded with the weight of uncharted territory. Could their newfound alliance withstand the storm ahead? Their eyes locked, determination weaving a tapestry of resolve amid the uncertainty. That a sudden thought pierced through Emily's mind. If they could confront this together, then maybe Sophie could finally receive what she truly needed. What transformations awaited them in the fallout? They were on the brink of unveiling not just a claim but the hidden layers of family, and what it meant to come together in defiance of the past. Just as Claire gathered her thoughts to speak again, the door of the cafe swung open once more, revealing a man in a dark coat, his face obscured by shadow. The room fell silent, each heart skipping a beat. Did he carry news that could disrupt everything they had just begun to unravel? The man stood in the doorway, the low light casting a shadow over his features. For a moment, time froze. Claire's breath caught in her throat. Who was he, and what did he want? The coffee shop felt like a world away. The aromas that once soothed now gripped her like a weight. Mark glanced at Claire, his confusion deepening, while Tessa's eyes narrowed, seeking answers. Emily, holding her breath, felt an electric charge in the air. Can I help you? Tessa finally asked, her voice steady despite the trembling energy that filled the room. The man stepped forward, his gait confident yet cautious, like someone familiar with the heavy secrets of the world. The sun outside cast fleeting glimpses of light across him, momentarily illuminating his face. Claire could see the lines of worry etched into his brow. Yes, I'm looking for Claire, he said, his voice gravelly heavy with urgency. I have news about your aunt. A chill ran down Claire's spine. Aunt Miriam? It had been years since she had thought of her, tangled in the web of their unresolved past. Who are you? Claire managed to ask, her heart racing as if it were trying to escape her chest. I'm a lawyer, he replied, producing a card from his coat pocket and extending it towards her. Andrew Lawson. I am handling her estate. Her mind spun. What could possibly be important enough that it brought this man here, unannounced? The papers she held in her hand felt heavier now as they threatened to spill the whole story. How did you find me? She pressed, struggling to regain control. Your aunt made her wishes clear before she passed, Andrew said. There was a kindness in his eyes, a glimmer of understanding that promised empathy amidst the chaos. She wanted to ensure that Sophie was taken care of, and she needed you to be aware of her decisions. Tessa reached across the table and touched Claire's hand, grounding her in this reality. What do you mean? Claire asked, dreading the ripple of complications that lurked in his answer. There is more to that claim than just money, Claire. Your aunt set up a trust for Sophie's care, but under conditions. She believed you hadn't been honest with her about your ability to care for Sophie. But he paused, his eyes searching hers. She also left a letter. One that might change everything. Claire's mind raced. A letter? Trepidation coiled within her. What could Miriam have said? Would it pull the curtain back on all the hurt and guilt that clouded their past? Before she could think of a response, a worried murmur arose from Mark. What kind of conditions? The kind that require you to confront the truth and seek out the support you might have been denying yourself, Andrew said, his voice calm. And trust me, it won't be easy. Each word felt like a gauntlet thrown at Claire's feet. She glanced at Mark and Tessa, their faces a mixture of concern and anticipation. What do you mean? Claire asked again, her voice thick with a blend of fear and curiosity. There are elements of your aunt's past that will come into play here. Secrets she wanted to unveil. If you're willing to uncover what lurks beneath, this could be the key to everything you've been trying to hold together for Sophie. A breathless silence hung like thick fog. Emily's heart raced, mind swimming with possibilities. Claire felt her resolve faltering as trepidation tightened its grip. Could she bear more family secrets, more truths? Just then, before Claire could gather her thoughts, a second figure appeared at the door. This time, it was a woman drenched in rain, uncertainty swirling around her. Their eyes met from across the room, a tentative recognition sparking in the air. Her heart raced even faster. Who was she, and what newfound depth would she bring to this already tangled web? Is this Sophia's mother? The woman asked. Something in her voice held desperation, laced with hope. What's going on? Claire stammered, her voice barely rising above the tension. The walls felt like they were closing in again. Another layer of complication unraveling. How would they handle this latest twist? Would Sophia's future depend on confronting the ghosts of their past? The stakes just got higher, and the path forward was shrouded in fog. Claire clutched the papers tightly, a knot forming anew in her stomach as she braced for what lay ahead. The woman took a shaky step inside, water pooling at her feet from the rain so loud against the window it felt like 1,000 questions. Claire's gut twisted. She couldn't make sense of this sudden arrival, another piece of a puzzle that was quickly becoming overwhelming. Who are you? Claire breathed, heart hammering. The stranger hesitated, her gaze darting to Andrew, then back to Claire, the weight of her uncertainty palpable in the air. She glanced down, reluctant to speak. I'm Sophia's mom. My name is Rachel. Rachel's name struck Claire like a punch. Sophie's mother, she hadn't seen her in years. Memories of a distant summer tangled with regret. Claire opened her mouth, but no words came. Instead, the silence stretched, filling with unspoken pain. Andrew cleared his throat, stepping forward as if to bridge the gap. Rachel has a right to know what's going on, he said, his voice calm but firm. It's about the trust your aunt set up for Sophie. Rachel, you have some conditions to consider too. Sophie's mother took a breath, her eyes glistening with a mix of fear and determination. I need to protect her. I need to be involved. After everything, she trailed off, the weight of her past obvious. Claire could feel the collective tension of the room. Mark leaned closer to her, his warmth offering a small island of comfort amidst the tumult. "This is a lot. We need to talk," he said softly, concern lining his features. "Agreed," Andrew replied, glancing between them. "The trust has conditions requiring both of you to work together. Your aunt wanted to see reconciliation, but I can't reveal too much without you both present." "Reconciliation?" Claire echoed, her voice tinged with disbelief. "What does that even mean? After everything that has happened, how could we possibly work together?" Rachel flinched at the harshness in Claire's tone, questioning, scared. But there was resilience in Rachel's eyes, a flicker of hope. "I know things didn't end well between us," she replied, her voice trembling. "But Sophie is everything to me. I want to do what's right for her." Claire's heart softened slightly. The chaos surrounding them started to feel more like a shared experience rather than a burden. She could see fragments of the woman she used to know within Rachel. Yet the years had shaped them into different people entirely. "What's in the letter?" Claire whispered, almost to herself, her fingers trembling against the papers in her grip. "The letter was meant to be a bridge," Andrew interjected, his steady presence grounding the situation again. "But for it to work, both of you need to be willing to confront your past and decide what you want for Sophie together." Every word from Andrew hung heavily in the air, laden with the emotion that both Rachel and Claire were desperate to understand. The challenge before them, facing the ghosts that lingered in their hearts, felt monumental. Claire looked at Rachel again, curiosity blooming alongside fear. Could they really work together? And what could this letter contain that would change everything? Tessa, watching closely, finally broke the silence. "What are you waiting for? Let us sit down. We can talk through all this. Make sense of it." The gravity of the moment settled. Couching the myriad emotions swirling around felt insurmountable. Yet standing together for Sophie might illuminate a path neither of them knew was possible. As they moved to find a table, Rachel tentatively reached toward Claire, hoping for a connection. It was a small gesture but held so much weight. Could it symbolize the beginning of understanding? But as their eyes met, an unspoken question filled the air. Would they seize this chance to heal that the letter promised? Or would they let the past pull them back into darkness? In that moment, Claire realized that the next chapter was demanding more than just words. It required a willingness to unveil what had been buried, and the courage to change for Sophie's sake. Would they dare to embrace the truth that lay ahead? The cafe buzzed around them, but it felt like time had stopped. Claire, Rachel, Mark, and Emily sat together, each grappling with emotions that threatened to spill over. The papers resting on the table felt like a bridge to their futures, but first, they had to confront the past. "Let us start with the letter," Claire said, her voice steady. She could feel their eyes on her, demanding answers. "What did Aunt Miriam want us to know?" Rachel leaned closer, hope mingling with apprehension. "I don't care about the past. I just want Sophie to be okay." Emily shifted nervously, glancing back and forth between the two women. "We need to work together on this," she added. "For her." Andrew nodded and began to explain. "The letter outlines a trust for Sophie's care, contingent on both of you showing a commitment to co-parenting. Miriam believed it was vital you two resolve your differences." Mark's brow furrowed. "Co-parenting?" His youthful voice cracked slightly. "After everything?" "After everything," Andrew echoed gently. Miriam believed Sophie deserved her family to support her well-being, regardless of past mistakes or disagreements. Claire swallowed hard, memories flooding her mind. She had faced so much loss and regret. Could she really work alongside Rachel after everything that had happened? But looking at her daughter's mother, she realized they were both fighting for the same girl. "Let us read the letter," Claire said, determination sharpening her heart amidst uncertainty. Together, she delicately opened the envelope and unfolded the letter with trembling hands. As she read aloud, every word felt heavy with love and sorrow. "My dear Claire and Rachel," she began. "If you're reading this, it means you've faced some difficult times. I want you to know my precious granddaughter, Sophie, is my greatest legacy. The past has left scars, but only by confronting them can you pave a better future for her." Tears filled Rachel's eyes as she listened. All the hurt, all the regrets, began to shift in the weight of this realization. Miriam goes on to explain genetic risks Sophie may inherit, and the importance of proper care. Claire continued. She believes that facing these challenges together will not only heal your hearts, but also allow you both to become better mothers to her. Emily felt the air thrum with the shared burden of the truth. This was more than just a letter, it was a lifeline. Can we really do this? Rachel finally spoke, her voice shaking. Can we put aside our past for her? Andrew leaned forward, his expression earnest. If you're willing to try, I believe Aunt Miriam's wishes can create something beautiful. Families are messy, but they can heal. Mark glanced between his mother and Rachel. For Sophie, he murmured, a flicker of his resolve showing. Together for Sophie, Claire agreed. Locking eyes with Rachel, as the weight of the moment settled. A gentle sense of hope filled the cafe. Claire extended her hand across the table. And after a brief pause, Rachel took it, intertwining their fingers as tears cascaded down their cheeks. I'll help you, Rachel whispered. I want to be part of Sophie's life. Claire nodded, feeling a warmth envelop her heart. And I will do the same for you. The flicker of understanding illuminated their faces. The past was still there, but now they could face it united, for Sophia's smile, for her health, and for their futures intertwined. In that brief moment, a deep-rooted transformation took place. The raw scars of their past began to mend, not by forgetting, but by boldly stepping into the tumultuous waters together. Outside, the snow continued to fall, a gentle reminder that life kept turning through trials and transformations. As they left the cafe together, Mark, Emily, Claire, and Rachel, their hearts felt lighter. The shadows of the past began to dissolve, showing them a path bathed in tentative light. It wasn't the end, but it was definitely a beginning. With each step forward, they were reinforced by love and the promise of healing. For Sophie, they would face whatever was to come, determined to weave a future together, woven from pain, honesty, and finally connection. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss the next exclusive stories that will capture your heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, letting it know these stories matter. Comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible transformation.